Didn't I say to send notices when you want to visit? Edgar asked, holding the door to stop his mother from coming inside. By some luck, he received the message about her wanting to come inside the gates. I did. It should have arrived a little over an hour before I did. Be grateful I have brought all the things Alfred wanted with me. Priscilla pointed at her carriage. Have your servants bring them out for you and take them to wherever. Get out of my way, Edgar. It has not been a day yet, but I regret my decision to let you enter our home. Has her pregnancy suddenly made you like her, or are you lonely? We can get you a dog to comfort you. A small one, though I am tempted to get one of the big ones you are afraid of. There are a few somewhere on the property, Edgar said, seriously considering letting the dogs roam free. They were never present because of Alessandra's cats, who liked to go outside from time to time. After the death of her last kitten, he didn't need to traumatize her with the bloody mess of what his dogs could do to her cats. Who raised you? Priscilla asked, thinking it could not be Alfred because of how Edgar turned out. Not you, Edgar replied. Priscilla rolled her eyes. How many times must you throw that in my face? Yes, I was an absent mother. Do you want me to tell the entire town? When will you let it go? Move your foot before I press my heel down on it. I did not travel all this way for you to send me away before I got inside. Edgar, I swear I brought you into this world, and I will be the one to take you out of it if you do not move. What are you two doing? Alessandra asked, staring at the mother and son fighting by the door. If there is more of this, the door might snap in two. Edgar released the door, which unfortunately caused Priscilla to almost fall forward because she was pushing against it. Nothing, he answered, ignoring his mother's glaring at him. Why did you come downstairs? I could have gotten what you wanted. I was going to paint when I saw the two of you by the door. Why were you stopping your mother from coming inside? Didn't we agree that she could visit to help me? Alessandra asked. Had she not suddenly had the urge to paint, she would not have known Priscilla was here. You shouldn't force her away. You should apologize, Edgar. Good luck with that, Priscilla thought as she fixed her dress. Sorry. Edgar quickly let the word leave his mouth before his stubbornness could come into play. Priscilla looked at Edgar as if he had grown a second head. First, he thanked her yesterday, and now he was apologizing to her. What had they done to her son? What's wrong with him? Priscilla asked Alessandra. Alessandra looked at Edgar to figure out what Priscilla was talking about. He seemed perfectly fine, unless she was referring to him apologizing. Did Edgar apologizing scare you? Alessandra asked in disbelief. Certainly this could not be why Priscilla acted like she made a wild discovery. Of course it did, Priscilla said, touching her chest to calm her heart. Edgar was stubborn, just like her, which made apologizing hard sometimes. It felt like someone stabbed you right in the heart when you had to say those two awful words. You two, Alessandra sighed. Another day she could sit and try to figure out the two of them, but not today. Not when she finally started to feel well enough to paint. Edgar and Priscilla were not going to ruin this for her. However, this was an excellent opportunity for the mother and son to start working on their relationship. I am going to paint. I will join you, Edgar and Priscilla said in unison. The pair looked at each other, almost glaring a hole in the other's head. Edgar was trying to spend more time with Alessandra to avoid missing out on anything new with her pregnancy. While Priscilla did not travel all the way here to not spend time with Alessandra and give her advice. Oh no, Alessandra thought. She looked back and forth between the two. She didn't want to be a part of their game for who would spend time with her. Edgar, you cannot paint, Alessandra said, regretting his offer to join her. Priscilla smiled in triumph, but Alessandra quickly popped her happiness. And Priscilla, you will not want to risk getting paint on your dress. I have a better idea. How about the two of you talk to each other and leave me alone? Alessandra added the last part. Then the simple answer would be to do something else so I can join, Priscilla replied. I see where Edgar gets all his quick solution skills from, Alessandra muttered. She thought it came from Alfred, but now she knew it was passed down from Priscilla. Then the two of you can join me to paint. I am tired of lying around, and I don't just sit around chatting. We need to do something fun. Priscilla raised her hand to bring up one important detail. I cannot paint, she said. Neither can your son, so the two of you will have something to bond over. This way, Alessandra said, turning around to lead the pair up the stairs. Priscilla did not appreciate the harsh truth being told by Alessandra, even though she was the one to mention not being able to paint first. She bit her tongue so as not to give a smart response to Alessandra while Edgar was right beside her. She glanced to her left at Edgar, who followed behind Alessandra like a lost puppy. Priscilla almost envied how easy Alessandra had it with a Collins man. Though Edgar was involved with the palace, he was here with his pregnant wife. Regardless of how much they did not get along, she could live with Edgar being nothing like his father. Aren't you coming, Priscilla? Alessandra asked, looking down at the bottom of the stairs where Priscilla stood in a daze. I am coming, Priscilla replied, following the two up the stairs. Don't forget to tell the servants to bring everything from Edgar's childhood out of my carriage. What? Alessandra asked, suddenly more interested in that than painting. I want to see what you brought with you, she said, returning down the stairs. I don't recall having anything memorable from my childhood that my children should want, Edgar said. Your second father asked me to bring them, Priscilla replied, referring to Alfred. She did her part in all of this. Give it to him if you do not want any of it. I had my servants pack what did not smell old or have spots in it. Most of what I brought are books we placed on shelves in his room. You liked to read, I know that much. I would like to hear more stories about Edgar's childhood. Looks like we turned around just in time, Alessandra said as a guard entered the front door with a note in his hand. Who is at the gates? Men from the court, Duchess. My apologies for disturbing your family so early in the morning. We have a lot to discuss, Mark said, entering the front door with papers in his hands. He came alone for this visit. Lady Scott, Mark greeted Priscilla. Finally, someone is not mistakenly using the Collins name. Where were you during my divorce, Mark? Priscilla asked. She knew Mark because she attended parties with Edmund that involved members of the court. I don't normally deal with divorces unless a case I am dealing with calls for it, Mark replied. Then you should have told me to attempt to kill Edmund so you could have the case. The man who dealt with mine kept letting Edmund's mother speak over him. Why did he even let her in the room in the first place? I get annoyed every time I think about it. Go on and speak with the two of them. I will take a tour around the house I have been banished from for years. I will see what changed," Priscilla said, leaving to give herself a tour. Edgar narrowed his eyes at Mark. "Your eyes, Mark? Look away before you lose them." Mark looked away from Priscilla to Edgar. "Calm down, Duke Collins. I have no intentions of suddenly being a father to a man like you. I am only here to speak about what you sent to us," Mark said. "And also, your mother is a grown lady. Where would you like to speak, Duchess? I am here for you." Alessandra tried to ignore Edgar, who was not pleased with Mark looking at his mother. The same Edgar who not long ago was bickering with Priscilla, but was now angry with the man for looking at his single mother. "We can speak in the drawing room. Edgar, can you please tell Alfred to let the servants take what Priscilla brought from her carriage, and then you can join us?" she asked. Alessandra wanted Edgar to stop glaring at Mark, so she sent him away for a moment. If Mark and Priscilla had something going on, which Alessandra doubted, Edgar had no right to meddle. Still, it was amusing to see Edgar be protective of his mother. Edgar kept his eyes on Mark while he touched Alessandra's stomach before he left to find Alfred. "Don't leave right here. I don't want you in a room with him," he said. "As if I have plans to harm her," Mark said loud enough for Edgar to hear as he left them. "Congratulations on your pregnancy, Duchess." Alessandra looked down at her stomach, which was flat and showed no signs of carrying a child. "Am I gaining weight already?" she panicked internally. She had not mentally prepared herself for that. Mark noticed her panicked and said, "I can tell because the Duke touched your stomach before he left. I am an observant person. It helps with the job. I'll be keeping an eye on your family with this baby on the way. I don't need your husband going around threatening anyone who tries to harm you or your baby. Over a month ago, I dealt with a man trying to attack you at the ball." "What?" Alessandra heard nothing about someone wanting to attack her at the ball. Was Edgar aware of it? "The king sent the person to the palace dungeon to stop your husband from attacking him. I spent the next day looking into who paid him to try taking advantage of you. It is difficult to do because of how secretive the business he is a part of," Mark replied. Alessandra found it odd that Edgar had not mentioned this to her. She understood that she had not been told the night it happened, but why not the day after, or even a week later? She would like to be informed that someone was out to get her. The man was caught, but what about the person who paid him? She needed to keep an eye out for that person. "I didn't mean to rattle you with this. However, if you remember someone acting odd during the ball, please inform me. They might have something to do with it." "I wasn't paying attention to anyone at the ball since they were staring at my face. The only odd thing was my half-sister wanting to speak with me privately. We are never on good terms when speaking in private or with others. I wouldn't put it past Kate to do something like that. Our fights are nothing like normal sisters," Alessandra said, subconsciously touching her face. Mark noticed the action. "I am still looking into your former stepmother. A man has been lingering around her for a while now. He uses a different name, but I know his real name is Randall. Have you ever heard of him?" Alessandra shook her head. "No, I have not. I never heard Katrina or my father mention this name before. What does he do? Is that why you are here today?" "He is setting up a business in the red light district. I've learned of his past businesses in other towns, and I feel he is more of Katrina's friend than your father. I can't tell you much about that right now, but That is not all of why I am here today. I am here about what Edgar sent to us about your mother," said Mark. Alessandra felt like she was missing out on much information from what was happening around her. "What did Edgar send about my mother?" she questioned. What could Edgar possibly know about her mother? "I thought you were notified before the court was. Perhaps it would be best to ask your husband why I am here before we get started," Mark said, looking at an unsuspecting Edgar, who was unaware of his wife's growing anger from being left out of something important. Mark didn't regret spilling all this to Alessandra when Edgar was not around. He considered it payback for Edgar, who was always causing him trouble. "Edgar, what did you send the court about my mother?" Alessandra asked the moment Edgar returned to her side. Edgar looked at Mark, who could not keep his mouth shut while he left them for less than a minute. "I sent the court her whereabouts yesterday. I didn't inform you then because you just found out about the children." "Child," Alessandra corrected him. "You're in for a shock when the big day comes," Edgar said, sticking to his belief that there was more than one child in her stomach. "I didn't want to add knowing where your mother is to celebrate the fact you were with a child yesterday. I intended to tell you. If I wanted to hide it from you forever, I wouldn't have sent what I found to the court. I did not want to ruin yesterday because I did not know how you would react." "What about the man who tried to attack me at the ball?" Alessandra asked. She was only upset because she was learning about this from someone else. One of the things she loved about their marriage was not keeping secrets, even if they felt it would upset the other person. That way, they could be aware of what was happening around them and prepared for any danger. "You just had to open your big mouth and reveal everything, right?" Edgar glared at Mark. Why did Mark have to inform her about this? What did it have to do with her mother? "I hid that from you simply because I didn't want to worry you." "Mark, can you please go to the drawing room? We will join you shortly," Alessandra said with a forced smile. Mark didn't want to miss the show where the great Edgar Collins was scolded, but he respected Alessandra's wishes. He could live with the fact he irritated Edgar for once. Alessandra pinched the bridge of her nose and said, "I know it seems foolish to get angry with you when you are trying to protect me, but I prefer it when you don't leave me out. I would have preferred to hear that you found my mother from you. You had plenty of time to tell me when we sent the guard back to let Mark through the gates. I always tell you everything. Hearing it from Mark was more of a shock than if I would hear it from you." "I'm sorry." Edgar genuinely apologized. He understood how learning her mother was found, and that her husband was the one to do it, from Mark, which would be a double shock for her. "I won't leave you in the dark anymore, and will tell you all I know that concerns you. Those were the only things I kept from you, I swear." "I believe you, and thank you for searching for her," Alessandra said, as no one else had been able to provide her with a location for years. "Am I forgiven now? Are you crying?" Edgar asked, trying to pry her hand away from her face. "I am not. There is just water in my eyes." Mark sat comfortably with his right leg over his left leg as he watched Alessandra and Edgar continue to talk. His first impression of Alessandra was that she was too quiet for someone like Edgar, but surprisingly, she was able to keep Edgar in line. Perhaps he needed to come to Alessandra when he wanted Edgar to behave. "Are you better now?" Mark asked when they entered the drawing room, ignoring that he had caused trouble between them.
You are sitting quite comfortably in someone's home,
Edgar said, intentionally walking by Mark to brush his feet. He sat down beside Alessandra to face Mark.
How grown up of you. Hopefully you mature by the time your child arrives. I hope your children take after their mother. I don't need another duke or duchess with your personality,
said Mark.
My personality is wonderful. You complain just because you fools cannot keep up with me. I am creating another generation of smart people who will be far above their peers,
Edgar smugly replied. No other children will be a match for his own. It might be quite hard for them to find partners to suit them. Why does it sound like he is creating an army? Alessandra thought. She could admit she would love for their children to have his confidence. They needed it if they were going to live in this town.
If you say so. Let's start with why I came here today. We've sent out a request for your mother to return to Lockwood. She cannot ignore it as there is a price to pay. We are giving her 1 week to return to Lockwood. She will be imprisoned if she tries to run away from us. Your mother must officially sign away her divorce from your father and be told what happened to the inheritance, since your husband kept secrets from you.
Mark picked out the paper with information on Melanie and handed it to Alessandra. Edgar tapped his fingers on his leg and smiled as he held back from responding to Mark's jab. Mark was making use of his issue with Alessandra a moment ago, but he was setting himself up for a battle he would not win. My mother has other children, Alessandra said, her shock evident from her tone. Not one child, but there were 3 her mother was raising. What made the other 3 better than her? Did her mother not care for her because of her father? Did her mother truly believe she would be better in her father's care, so she forgot about her?
The son is from her husband's previous union, but they share 2 daughters,
Edgar said. This was part of the reason he would have liked to prolong Alessandra's learning about her mother's life. Alessandra continued to read about her mother's life. Although she gave up waiting for her mother's return and didn't have any good feelings towards someone who abandoned her, it still hurt. It was a painful slap in the face to learn her mother had moved on to another life, raising 2 girls and a son who did not share any blood with her. It was quite unfair. Was she supposed to not hold any negative feelings toward her mother because her mother might have assumed she would be better in her father's care and had no idea what life was like for her with Katrina or Kate? Mark found the situation to be quite sad, to witness a daughter learn that her mother was able to raise a child she did not share blood with, while the blood daughter was left to be mistreated by her stepmother. Regardless of what Melanie faced with Desmond, there were enough years for her to return to see her daughter, who was far past being of age. She truly let go of her old life. Alessandra laughed dryly. This hurt her as much as it hurt for her father to ignore what Kate and Katrina did.
You don't have to meet with her when she...
No. Alessandra shook her head. Her mother should not continue to forget. It was time for her mother to sit face to face with the child she left behind. I want to meet with her when she comes to town. Excuse me for a moment. She returned the papers to Mark. I want to be alone, Edgar, Alessandra said as she stood up. She needed to clear her mind alone and calm her emotions before continuing to speak with Mark.
I'm a little surprised you didn't go out of your way to bring your mother here on your terms. Why let the court handle it?
Mark asked when Alessandra left them alone.
Isn't it your job to deal with these matters? Why should I do your job? I am already looking for a murderer, which is your job, along with the guards. Since you're so involved with her family matters, you should take care of it.
Edgar folded his arms. looking in the direction Alessandra walked off to be alone.
I think you don't want to piss off your mother-in-law in case there is a chance your wife makes amends with her, said Mark. I think we should both mind our personal business,
Edgar replied.
So that means you won't mind your mother's business. Do you want to die?
Edgar glared at Mark.
Eventually, but not right now. Even though it took more than a month, you were quicker than the court was to find a woman who did not want to be found for years. I need your help.
Mark handed a paper to Edgar.
Only a handful of people in the court I trust cannot be paid off. Corrupt men and women can get past the court with the right amount of money. You cause a lot of trouble, but you are trustworthy, and there is no denying you are better than most of the other wealthy men in town. I want you to find everything you can about a man named Randall, involved in the red light district.
Edgar quickly read through the one paper with little to no information about Randall.
My hands are already full. Why should I? He might be the only link we have to Katrina's past. He showed up in Lockwood immediately and went straight to her. I have been watching her, and I know you must be too. Do you already know something about him?
Mark inquired. He didn't believe Edgar's attitude about Randall was that he didn't care about him.
Of course I am looking into him. I have not forgotten what those two women did to my wife,
Edgar replied. He had not let Katrina and Kate off the hook even for a second. First, he sought to find the past Katrina worked so hard to hide.
Leave it to me. I will send what I find out, but I cannot promise my mouth will remain shut. I didn't expect it to. Do as you wish, but know this. I want to punish Katrina and Kate for whatever they did to your wife through the court. One of the things I don't tolerate is abuse,
Mark said, as it was the reason he was sticking to this case.
Send your reports about Randall to me as soon as you get them. I'm concerned about this business he is setting up here in the red light district. It doesn't seem like any of the other businesses in the district. He is collecting girls and setting them up with wealthy men. He doesn't appear to be the type to help others find romance. I would like to soon find all the information I need to put them in a dungeon for a long time,
Mark said.
Dungeon?
Edgar chuckled, as it was somewhat funny. Mark thought that was where he wanted the mother and daughter to end up.
That is not satisfying enough for me. I will stick to working independently if you think I will let Katrina and Kate rot in a dungeon. I want them to suffer as much as my wife did, and then I'll consider letting you lock them away in the palace dungeon. Try getting the two of them first if you want to deal with them in court. I will remember to reach the two of them before you do, but I still require your help with Randall. You have the resources to find out more about him and Katrina. I have never met anyone who successfully wiped their past life away, so even the court has no idea who she is. Desmond surrounded himself with skilled women,
Mark noted. First, Melanie disappeared for years without anyone knowing where she went. And then Katrina lived in Lockwood without anyone knowing where she came from.
You might have trouble dealing with the Lady Kate Barrett, since she is getting married to the Marquess. Simon is a quiet man, but we might see a different side to him when you try to punish his wife. He is well liked among other noblemen, and you are, well, they are getting married in a week,
Mark revealed, but Edgar did not seem interested in the news.
They will get to enjoy their wedding and marriage until I find out more about Katrina. You should know by now that Kate was the one to injure Alessandra's face. The scars are no longer there, so I have a feeling someone who is not fond of me from the court will try fighting on Kate's behalf to say she was only a child. This is not a case you can solve through the court, Mark. It needs to be solved the old way,"
Edgar said, referring to the old way of taking punishments into your own hands.
"You cannot always win going by the book. It is my goal to follow the laws that were created. You will not understand because you would rather the two women dead, but I have principles to stick to. Since you have been helpful to the court lately, I will owe you a favor. If there is anything you need, do not hesitate to ask. I have a feeling your wife might not be coming back anytime soon, so I will take my leave so you can comfort her,"
Mark said, and straightened out his coat as he stood.
"I will send the Duchess a letter when her mother is back in Lockwood. I will also send one to her grandmother."
Edgar said nothing more to Mark. Right now, they were both on the same track to expose the type of people Kate and Katrina were, even though their punishments for the two differed.
"I should say goodbye to your mother before I leave,"
Mark said to taunt Edgar. Flirting with Priscilla while annoying Edgar was a win-win situation. A way to upset Edgar did not come easy. Edgar wasn't fond of this repeated joke, which he honestly did not believe was a joke. He truly believed that Mark had some interest in his mother and was testing the waters.
"Some morals you have to keep joking about being with a woman who was once married to one of your peers. You are a fake saint. I have a priest I should introduce you to. Keep this up, and the court will be looking all over town to find your body."
Mark looked over his shoulder at Edgar.
"I believed you did not have a good relationship with your mother. What a good son you are to try fending men away from her. I am almost tempted to become your new father so you can listen to me. Besides, your father and I were hardly friends. You mustn't throw that,"
Mark said, taking quick steps out of the drawing room. For a moment, he forgot how violent Edgar could get, no matter who stood before him.
"I can do whatever the hell I want in my home,"
Edgar replied, keeping the jar he picked up from the small table in the drawing room.
"I warned you to stop fucking around, didn't I? You can't kill a member of a court. There's a first for everything,"
Edgar interjected.
"What the hell are the two of you doing?"
Priscilla angrily asked with her hands placed on her hips. She looked around for Alessandra first, then back at the two men who seemed to be causing trouble.
"Edgar? I hope you do not intend to throw that jar. Excuse my language, but there is a pregnant woman who does not need to witness your shit. I am not pregnant and do not want to witness it, so I put the jar down. Why are the two of you fighting?" "Your son is a tiny bit upset that I made a few jokes about courting you. You have quite the guard dog,"
Mark chuckled. Priscilla failed to believe that Edgar, who disowned her as his mother, was upset at the possibility of Mark wanting to court her. That was her business at the end of the day. Still, it was a step forward to see Edgar acting like a protective son.
"Edgar, you cannot throw a jar because his words upset you, and I am allowed to be with someone after your father,"
she added, as she did not intend on staying alone forever. Plenty of men were willing to court her even though she was divorced.
"I don't care if you want to get married again. I am only against it being this bastard."
Edgar pointed at Mark.
"Should we do it just to piss him off?"
Mark asked Priscilla.
"As fun as that sounds, I don't want to waste my precious time getting involved with someone from the court. I have witnessed you devote your life to the court instead of your lover. Rest assured, I will not be getting with Mark, so put down that jar before someone gets hurt,"
Priscilla replied.
"I am on my way out, so no one will get hurt." I hope we see each other soon with good news, son.
Mark threw out a final joke as he made his way to the front door.
Should I? No.
Priscilla shook her head. She should stick to not getting involved with anyone from the court.
One of these days, I am going to kill him,
Edgar thought. One week felt like 1 year for two sisters in Lockwood. One sister eagerly looked forward to her wedding day, while the other sister nervously awaited her mother's return. Alessandra looked out the window of her carriage to take her mind off the endless questions she wanted to ask her mother. It was still hard to believe that after all these years, she was finally seeing her mother again. She had to pinch her hands a few times to believe that this was all real, and she was not dreaming this. Edgar joined Alessandra on the trip for support, though he wouldn't be in the room with her. For their reunion, Alessandra wanted to be alone with her mother so no one could interrupt their conversation. It was the only request she gave to Mark. Alessandra was not told of any request Melanie wanted.
It will be fine.
Edgar touched Alessandra's hand.
It better be,
he muttered. He was hoping for a civil meeting to not stress out Alessandra more than she already was. He had himself to blame for being the one to find her mother. I know. I am just thinking of how long I have waited for this moment, and now it is finally here. My mind is restless. I have so much to think about. I am not getting my hopes up that I will suddenly have a good relationship with my mother today, but I will hope for the best. If she does not have a good reason for staying away all these years, prepare to leave the court quickly, Alessandra replied.
You've been forcing me to speak with my mother these days, so I am afraid I will not leave until you've said everything you need to. Get all your answers today so you can have peace and move on. I'll treat you with anything you want after this. Anything at all.
Edgar smiled, suggesting more than what the regular innocent person was thinking. Reed rolled his eyes at the couple, who seemed to forget they were not the only ones in the carriage. Caleb leaned over to his brother and whispered,
I told you we should have sat out front.
Reed scrunched up his nose when Caleb got too close.
What the hell did you eat?
Fish? Caleb happily smiled.
I snagged some from the kitchen. There might have been a few onions on the fish. Can you tell?
He blew air in Reed's direction. Reed pushed Caleb's face in the other direction.
You know, Mother said never to do that. It is rude, and I will tell her. Must you always run to a mother? I know you've been sending her information about Sally and me, you bastard, Caleb said, fighting to remove Reed's hands from touching his face. Remove your hands. I don't know where they've been. And stop blowing your breath all over the carriage. None of the windows are open, Reed replied. Alessandra bit her lip to not laugh at the two. Unintentionally, they were able to take her mind off of her mother. Edgar, on the other hand, felt his patience with the two running out. He kicked under the seat where they sat and said, You two, shut the hell up before I permanently shut you up. Caleb pointed at Reed. He started it. Stop talking. Edgar sighed. He couldn't take much of the fish smell either. Why do I let the two of you work for me? I'm going to change you from being her guard when our children are born. Reed didn't want to hear this conversation again. I told you we are fit. It is not about either of you being fit. It is the fact I don't want your stupidity to rub off on my child. I should fire you altogether, Edgar said, seeing that as a more effective way. Alessandra nudged Edgar to stop him from firing the twins. Stop it, Edgar.
I happen to like the relationship they have, and most of the time, I envy how close they are. It must be nice to work with your brother. It is not, Reed and Caleb replied in unison. Alessandra didn't believe they did not enjoy each other's company. She looked out the window at the court in view. Thankfully, we have arrived, so no one will be getting hurt or fired. Be nice to each other while Edgar and I are inside. Why are we not going inside with you? Caleb asked. I don't want to scare my mother by arriving with 2 big guards behind me, and then there is Edgar. I only need one scary person with me. Thank you. Alessandra thanked the driver after he opened the door for her. You're gonna have to get the fuck out with that breath, Reed muttered after Edgar exited the carriage. I didn't think I would have a reason to visit the court so soon, Alessandra said as she walked to the court with Edgar by her side. Be careful. Edgar guided her away from rocks on the ground. Yes, I will, Alessandra said in a playful tone. She had gotten used to Edgar's new protective level. She had to by now, since there were long months ahead. Do you think she is here already? We might be a little bit early. I don't know, Edgar replied. You're a killjoy, Edgar. Mark is waiting for us. Good afternoon. Alessandra greeted the man who had been quite helpful in her life recently. Good morning, Duchess. Collins. Mark greeted Edgar without looking at him. Bastard, Edgar greeted Mark. Your mother and her family are already here. I have a room assigned for you to have a conversation first, and then I will join you. I will take you there. Will this be joining you for the entire meeting? Mark lazily pointed at Edgar. You woke up and forgot your manners, Mark. You are speaking to a duke. You need to be respectful, Edgar said, and then bit his tongue to hold back what was on his mind. Forgive me. Mark dramatically bowed to Edgar, as he would do in front of the king. I've been thinking of you as a family member lately, so I got too comfortable speaking with you. This way, Duchess. I don't even want to know what the issue is between the two of you, Alessandra sighed. Her nerves went back up as they neared a room where her mother was waiting for her. As they got closer, Alessandra heard more than one person speaking on the inside. Mark was the one to open the door and walk in first to announce her arrival. The Duchess is here. I will wait out here. Edgar released her hand. Okay, Alessandra replied, and followed behind Mark to finally meet her mother. Alessandra was confused the moment she entered the room. Inside the room was an older woman who was no doubt her mother because of their similar features. Alessandra was confused by the presence of 2 younger ladies who had to be her sisters. As much as she would like to meet her sisters, who she had no issue with, Alessandra wanted to speak with her mother alone, unless they were going to a different room while her sisters remained here. Am I going to another room to speak with my mother, or is everyone else going to leave now that I am here? Alessandra softly spoke with Mark. I mentioned you wanted to speak with her alone, but they insisted on remaining together, Mark replied. Then I would like for Edgar to come inside in the next 5 minutes, Alessandra said. It wasn't fair for her to be alone while her mother had her 2 daughters beside her. Wanting no one around to interrupt her conversation with her mother was out the window. Alessandra was not looking for a fight today, but she wanted Edgar in the room at some point, in case it felt like she was getting nowhere with the 3 people in the room. Alessandra! Melanie stood up to greet her daughter. She was nervous yet excited to see Alessandra again. News of Desmond's death and Alessandra's inheritance were like a splash of cold water to the face. The life she left behind was much different than she expected. "It is good to see you again, my sweet child." "Hello," Alessandra greeted her mother. Mother could not easily roll off her tongue, as calling someone this word felt odd. She only called Katrina mother to upset her in the past. Mark cleared his throat, wanting absolutely nothing to do with the awkwardness in the room.
"I won't be far away from this room. Just step outside when you are ready for me to join you."
"You've become a duchess," Melanie said as she walked around the large table to get to Alessandra.
"Your father always dreamt big about the type of man you would marry."
"My father had nothing to do with me marrying the Duke. I did that all on my own to get away from my father. I will sit here." Alessandra sat down before Melanie could reach her. She wasn't ready for greetings that involved touching right now. Melanie stopped and looked up for a moment to get over the action she deserved. She knew with her late return, Alessandra would not want to speak or even hug her. She deserved it for being away for so long. "That was rude. Ow!" Alessandra looked further down the table at the two young ladies. While Alessandra had taken after her mother's appearance, the sisters looked to be a mixture of both parents, even though Alessandra had yet to meet their father. Her sisters did not share her dark hair or striking green eyes. Their eyes looked as if there were two colors present. "Do not kick me. It was rude. Mother was looking forward to this the entire trip," the younger-looking sister said. Alessandra wasn't affected by her words. She didn't start to feel bad for not hugging her mother, nor did she dislike the young girl for sticking up for their mother. Alessandra only wished they would have listened to her request to be alone with her mother so her sisters would not have to view how strained the relationship was between their mother and older sister.
"Girls, please be quiet. I was told you wanted to speak with me alone, but the girls were so excited to meet their older sister. Your brother will join us in a few days with my husband. It was a bit hard for them to put their lives on a halt to travel here with me," said Melanie. "I apologize for disrupting the peaceful life you have with my problems," Alessandra said, slightly annoyed to hear how it wasn't easy for them. At least they had that in common with her mother. "I should be the one apologizing to you, Alessandra. I never stopped thinking about you. I wanted to bring you along with me when I first left, but I had no idea where I was going. I just picked up my bags, and that wouldn't have been a good life for you, traveling with me when there wasn't a place I was going. Your father loved you so much, so I knew it would be better for you to remain with him. That is why I left you behind," Melanie explained. Before Alessandra could reply, she looked at her sisters listening closely to the conversation. "I asked for my husband to join us in a few minutes, so I do not feel alone in this room, but I would still prefer for you and me to have a conversation alone before everyone is together. Please. Girls, please leave the room for a moment. Don't wander off far away or cause any trouble. This is nowhere for you to be playing around," Melanie said, reminding the two that this was nothing like the small town they grew up in. Lockwood was a whole new world for her daughters. "No fair. We have a new sister who is a duchess of all things, but we have to wait to meet her. It's not fair that we have to miss out on what is being said here, Mother. It is as interesting as finding out you were once a baroness. Claire, get out now." Melanie raised her voice and gave the two a look. Alessandra was startled by the loud noise, and out of instinct, she touched her stomach.
At least she learned one of her sister's names was Claire. She would learn the other name once she was finished here with her mother. Her focus was on her mother, so the introductions with her sisters could be done afterward. Melanie waited until the two, who would be getting a scolding later, left the room to apologize to Alessandra once more. I am sorry for not listening to your request to be alone with me. It is true, the two of them should not have been present, but they were so eager to meet you that I let them stay. I also hoped that my other daughters being here would ease the awkwardness between us. I thought wrong. You probably do not want to hear any more apologies from me. I do not. They hardly mean anything to me. What I want to know is why. I understand wanting to get away from my father, and at the time, it was not ideal for me to be traveling with you, but years have gone by. You have no excuse to not return to see me. Even if my father tried threatening you, the court would have helped you, Alessandra said. Melanie sighed. Your father had connections in the court to help him back then. Desmond potentially threatening me after the shame he dealt with when I ran away would not have stopped me from seeing you. I have no good excuse. I simply grew tired of my life in Lockwood and life before that. I traveled, which is something I knew would make me happy, and it did. Eventually, I met someone who loved me as I wanted to be loved, and as a young fool, I made the decision to completely forget about everyone. I don't want to hear about you being young. Alessandra stopped the ridiculous excuse. She would have cared for it more than 10 years ago, but not now. You are old enough now, 1 year ago or even 5 years ago, to know it was time to start looking to meet your daughter. My husband should not have to look all over the kingdom for you. Melanie opened her mouth to explain herself, but she could not say anything. She chose to let go of her old life, including Alessandra, her mother, and her father. She truly believed Alessandra would be in good hands with her father. I have no excuse for staying away all this time. I won't deny that if your husband or the court had not searched for me, I would not have returned to Lockwood. I miss my mother. I keep thinking my mother will scream at me when I didn't meet with her, but she is too kind to be angry. Have the two of you met each other? Your father didn't like when my parents came to visit. I had to send them away to avoid both sides arguing with each other, said Melanie. I met my grandmother a month ago. She thought we were communicating with each other, but my father was the one sending her letters, giving the money or toys she sent to my sister, Alessandra replied. Oh, it does sound like something your father would do. My mother must have wanted to kill him when she found out. Good thing he's dead. Melanie chuckled, but was met by silence. I am really trying my best here. I don't want you to act as if you care for my words today, but the least you could do is react. Your silence is killing me. What do you want me to say? Alessandra asked, genuinely wishing to hear what responses her mother expected. I am reacting to your words. I have been responding instead of keeping quiet. Was I supposed to laugh at what grandmother would do when you have not visited her? Are you aware of grandfather's state? He is not doing well. Melanie grabbed a handful of her dress under the table. She was aware of her father's state in the past, but as her letters to her mother decreased, she did not know what was happening to her father. What is happening to him? Write to grandmother. Or, better yet, visit them. As you said, she is kind enough to embrace you instead of yelling at you. You do not have another 15 years to hold off reuniting with them, Alessandra advised her mother. I plan to take your siblings to meet my parents. If you want to, you can travel with us. It won't be so soon since I am here to get to know you, your new family, and learn what has happened in my absence. The girls are also excited to be in such a big town. They can always come back after visiting your parents, Alessandra quickly interjected, as it would be a big mistake to stay in Lockwood instead of seeing her grandfather. I won't be upset if you go to visit grandfather. His time is limited, but Lockwood will always be here. Everyone should understand why you suddenly need to leave Lockwood. Alessandra continued to say, I met my grandfather once. Edgar and I did a quick trip 2 weeks ago, but we will go back when we can. I was planning my own trip for Edgar and me to spend at least a week there, but unfortunately I cannot travel at the moment, so I will not be going with you. Melanie looked Alessandra up and down. Are you sick? Hurt? She asked. No, Alessandra replied and left it at that. She was not ready to share the good news with her mother. Okay, Melanie answered, her shoulders dropping from the disappointment of their conversation. Tell me a bit about your life. I would like to catch up, no matter how long it will take. Where do you want to start? From when Father paraded me around like a doll to impress his peers? From when he remarried and I got a little sister? From when half of my face was bruised and once Father saw that was the end of his love for me? Wearing a mask every day? Being forced to stay in my room daily, and especially when there were guests? Not being fed if I upset my stepmother and having to go to the kitchen? Alessandra asked. Before Melanie could respond, she held up her hand and added, Oh, wait, the best one was when one of the few things I loved, which was a kitten that kept me company, was tossed from a window. No, a better story might be when your wedding dress was ruined. I'm sorry I did not keep it safe and sound for you. In the past, I kept a few of your clothes to give back to you when you returned. Some of them slowly spoiled in my closet, but I think I did a good job keeping them safe. Alessandra, I deserve you trying to make me feel bad, but it would be better if we make this a more positive reunion, Melanie said, not able to listen to the things Alessandra mentioned. You asked me about my life and I told you. That was my life, up until I got married. Do you want me to skip my childhood? Do you want me to skip the bad parts of my life so you don't feel like you messed up by not returning? The reality is my father did not treat me like a princess as you thought he would. He was stealing money that belonged to me, and because of this, he refused to send me to my grandparents, Alessandra answered, giving her mother the harsh truth. You left and found your happiness, while every day in that house was hell for me. There was a stupid rumor about my face being cursed, and the servants feared me when I finally left my room. I really hated my face in the past. When Father liked to show it off, and when it was ruined. Each year that went by, I awaited your return. Even when I was older and knew that by then you wouldn't return, I still held on to a little hope that you would, Alessandra added. I am trying to guilt you, Alessandra admitted. I don't want to tell you about the good parts of my life, like my husband and all the people I have met. You aren't deserving of it yet, and I really want to see you regret your decision to not return, because even now, when you sit before me and apologize or explain yourself, I don't feel like you regret or feel sorry. If you want to try having a relationship with me, I won't stop you, but I won't warm up to you so easily. I understand that, Melanie slowly replied. I will do whatever I need to do to make you view me as your mother. I only have one request, that you do not be distant from your sisters because of me. They are looking forward to getting to know you. Don't punish them for what I've done. I would love to get to know my sisters. Are we done for now? For many days I had so much to ask you, but now that we are here, they all seem pointless. It's weird. I really wished my father had threatened you to stay away, or he was the one to send you out of Lockwood. That way I could handle the feelings of my mother not wanting me in her life better. It really hurts to know both parents did not care for me, Alessandra said. I do care for you, Alessandra. I was selfish, only thinking about my happiness. Regardless of how much I thought Desmond would take care of you, I knew what he was like. How demanding he was with looking good in front of his peers. I should have thought more about how you would have suffered like I did to play a role in his perfect life. I can't help but apologize to you. Melanie sincerely apologized. It was the only thing she could do now. I did think about you often. I thought of what kind of young lady you were growing into. What type of man would you marry? If you were anything like me and shared the same passions as I did. On our journey here, I tried asking around about you, but tales about you have not reached outside of Lockwood yet. As a duchess, I am certain they will shortly. It was surprising that you married a Collins. That family is so strict, Melanie said, looking back on her days watching Edmund and Priscilla Collins. I met your husband's parents a long time ago, thanks to your father's title. I met a few of the Carsons and a few other close relatives. I remember the days of listening to Priscilla go on and on about her mother-in-law when she thought no one was listening in the bathrooms. When I first ran away from your father, I ended up in the same town as Rose Collins. From afar, she seemed pleasant. Are they treating you well? Melanie asked, not expecting an answer since Alessandra did not want to tell her about her marriage. I know Priscilla is a bit exhausting to be around. Priscilla didn't like me at first. She still says she doesn't like me now, but her actions say otherwise. Priscilla visits our home every few days. As for Rose, it has been a while since we spoke, but I have not had a really bad time becoming part of their family. Others had it worse, I am sure, but Edgar doesn't let just anyone come into our home. So... Alessandra trailed off, trying to think about what to say next. Melanie tapped her fingers on the wooden table. Are you close to any of the Barretts? Your grandmother? Uncle? Anyone at all? That family has a habit of acting like they're royalty and are above everyone else. I made your father stop his relatives from coming to our home in the first year of our marriage. The only Barrett who I can say I have somewhat of a good relationship with is my uncle, Clark. We don't see each other or keep in touch, but he is the best of the bunch. Grandmother no longer views me as her granddaughter, and I have not seen the other relatives. It is better this way. I am curious if Clark has taken my advice and started living differently, said Alessandra. If there was money left for her, she wondered what Clark did with it. I agree that Clark is the best of the bunch. Your father was a really good man when I met him, but he got too caught up with appearances.
I always felt sorry for Clark because he was trying his hand at so many businesses to become successful and prove his worth in the family. He was only annoying when he desperately wanted money. I should reach out to him to let him know that I'm back, Melanie said, as she had a good relationship with Clark. We should probably let Mark know that we are finished here. Unless there is something more to be said on your end? Alessandra asked, secretly hoping there was nothing more to be said. This sit-down was becoming more awkward by the second, even though they were speaking to each other and not giving one-word answers. It's been a little bit too quiet out there, so I need to check on the girls. Before we meet with everyone else, I need to ask, is it possible for us to meet again and continue to try and work this out? The court might want us to handle this elsewhere, so maybe we can meet at your house. No. Alessandra declined the offer to meet at her home. We should meet at a more neutral place. There are plenty of places in town for us to meet and speak to each other. We are not ready to have a meeting where we rest our heads. Understandable for you. I would extend the offer for you to visit where we are staying. The doors will always be opened to you. It is not a big fancy estate like you are used to now, but it is cozy. You can bring your husband and anyone you want to introduce me to. That might also be too soon, isn't it? Well, I am trying, Melanie added after Alessandra agreed it would be too soon. Alessandra stood up from her seat instead of responding to her mother. She was aware that her mother was trying, but her mother also needed to understand that she was also trying her best to sit here and listen to what her mother had to say. It wasn't easy to not cry or yell more about how hurt she was. For now, Melanie had to accept the distance and realize nothing would change or feel better after a few minutes of speaking to each other. If Alessandra had not married Edgar, it was safe to say Alessandra would have welcomed her mother back with no questions asked because she was desperate to get out of her father's care. Alessandra's life was different now. She did not need to forgive easily. If she was to ever have a proper relationship with her mother, they needed to take baby steps after Alessandra's emotions were settled. Right now, she felt angry for reasons she could not explain. Alessandra just found herself not wanting to be alone with her mother anymore. Melanie sighed and followed Alessandra out of the room. For now, there was nothing she could do other than give Alessandra some space. She had faith that the two of them would become closer now that she was back here in Lockwood, and planned to be more involved in Alessandra's life.
Did it go well?
Edgar asked, taking Alessandra to the side to privately speak to her. Melanie inspected the young man who resembled the Edmund Collins she remembered from her youth. Melanie worried about Alessandra being involved with a man who had such a grand title. She hoped life for Alessandra wasn't going to be as suffocating as it was for her, but it wasn't her place to bring this up to Alessandra. Alessandra said her happiness was with her husband, so Melanie had to assume Alessandra was treated well by Edgar Collins. Mother! Claire ran up to Melanie with her sister Melody by her side.
The Duke is right there,
she whispered, looking at Edgar. They were from a small town, but stories of Edgar fighting in the last war alongside the king had reached them. All the girls from her town dreamt of being the ones to marry the king or even one of the noblemen.
When can we speak to him?
Wait for Alessandra to introduce all of you, Melanie answered.
Do not leave me with these people again,
Edgar replied, annoyed with the young ladies not far away from them.
There was only so much whispering, giggling, and staring he could take from the two young women who left the room shortly after Alessandra had entered.
Edgar, how are you to deal with our children if you get annoyed so easily?
Alessandra chuckled.
They will be our children. All of you seem to think I like all children. Others,
Edgar looked behind Alessandra, where her mother stood with her sisters,
are quite annoying. They are replicas of their annoying parents. Our children will not bother me.
Of course. How can I forget the way you think? Would you like to be introduced? I won't stop you if you want to introduce yourself. My sisters are excited to speak with us,
Alessandra said.
No offense, but one of your sisters already annoys me. I am not too thrilled about meeting two more. I suppose I should let her see your wonderful husband, but you have not told me how your conversation went. I don't want to introduce myself to someone who might have disrespected you.
Edgar said, still not a fan of Melanie for abandoning Alessandra.
There was no yelling, so I think it went well for the first meeting. I won't be inviting her over to our house anytime soon, but I don't mind speaking with her again. There is more I want to know about and more I have to say, but I don't feel like myself for some reason. I feel like I am not only angry, but I am jealous,
Alessandra admitted. There was jealousy toward her sisters, who seemed to have a good relationship with her mother. Alessandra didn't want to feel jealous of her sisters. She didn't want it to get in the way of getting to know them.
It is also natural that you feel uncomfortable and unable to remain alone with her. You should have yelled at her as much as you wanted to. You have a right to,
Edgar replied. In his opinion, Melanie should have had the sense to leave her two other daughters behind for the first meeting, and then have a second meeting to introduce the siblings. Melanie should have considered how uncomfortable it would be for Alessandra to see her mother with the two daughters she chose to stay with and raise.
I don't want to work myself up, and I honestly do not have it in me to yell. It would be pointless to yell since it is like she doesn't understand my feelings. All I heard were her excuses that were not good enough for me. It hurts, but I got my answer about the woman my mother is. I don't have to keep wondering anymore,
Alessandra said, feeling like a weight was lifted off her shoulders. The reason her mother stayed away plagued her mind for years, and now she finally knew it. It hurt that there was not a good enough reason, but now she could move on.
I need to properly introduce myself to my sisters.
Alessandra hooked her arm with Edgar's.
I also hope they are nothing like Kate. I cannot go through dealing with an irritating sister while I am pregnant.
Say the word and I can make all of them truly disappear,
Edgar said, walking with Alessandra back to meet her mother. To anyone, it would sound like Edgar was making a joke, but Alessandra knew how serious he was. Alessandra hesitated when she and Edgar stood in front of her mother and sisters. Mother would be appropriate, but Melanie had not earned that title back. Was calling her Melanie all right?
This is my husband, Duke Edgar Collins.
She decided not to address her mother.
Melanie Harris.
Melanie introduced herself with a small bow.
Girls.
She touched Melody's shoulder for her to go next.
Melody Harris.
Melody curtsied as she had practiced at home.
Claire Harris.
Claire curtsied.
We have heard a lot about you, Your Grace. Of your time out fighting beside the king when he was only a prince. Your tales have reached even our small town.
Well, I am a well-known man around the kingdom. The Collins are spread out all over the kingdom and like to boast about each other's accomplishments. That is why stories of youth might have reached your town. It is nice to meet all of you. Time will tell if we can become well acquainted with each other,"
said Edgar. Alessandra leaned close to Edgar and poked his side. What he said was the truth, but that did not mean he needed to say it out loud.
"Sister! We can call you sister, right?"
Claire asked, excited to have a new sister who held the title of Duchess.
"You can,"
Alessandra allowed it.
"Wonderful! I've been looking forward to meeting you since Mother said we had a long-lost sister,"
Claire said, trying her best to keep calm in front of the Duke.
"Long lost aren't the words I would use,"
Alessandra muttered, as she wasn't the long-lost person here. She was always in Lockwood while her mother disappeared.
"How did you manage to snag such a high-ranking husband? You will need to offer Melody some advice. She is of age to wed."
Claire pushed Melody forward.
"I am. I know the time for finding a partner has come to an end here in Lockwood, but I have asked my mother to let us stay here a while longer so I can socialize and hopefully find a husband. Then I would get to live near you. I hope you or your husband will be able to introduce me to a man with a good background,"
Melody said, crossing her fingers behind her back. The small town they came from had few nobles, unlike Lockwood. They were not in Lockwood for more than a day, but Melody preferred life in Lockwood more.
"I thought she was sticking around town to build a relationship with me,"
Alessandra thought. Alessandra didn't want to read into it too much. It was only fair for Melody to try finding a husband here, while Melanie tried to make amends with Alessandra. However, Alessandra knew she wasn't the best person to help Melody find a husband.
"Unfortunately, I do not know any single men I can introduce you to, and Edgar is not one to matchmake. It would be better for you to find someone who you can spend the rest of your life with on your... But if you spread that you are looking for a husband for your sister, it would make it easier for Melody to find a good husband."
Claire spoke up in Melody's place. She would also like help when it was her turn.
"By a good husband, do you mean a nobleman? I am a duchess, but I have no relationship with other nobles who are looking to marry. It is best for her to explore the town and find someone to her liking on her own. I don't want to set her up with anyone I do not know,"
Alessandra replied, sticking to the fact she would be of no use. Claire took a step forward to hold Alessandra's hands.
"But..."
Edgar blocked Claire from touching Alessandra. He wasn't enjoying how pushy the two sisters were. And then there was their mother, who said nothing to make the sisters stop asking.
"Refrain from getting so close,"
he warned the younger Harris.
"You must find your husband on your own. I don't care to set anyone up, and Alessandra has no time for it. Drop it."
He was gracious enough to let Alessandra be alone in a room with her mother while pregnant. But with her sisters continually asking for help after she said no, and then trying to touch Alessandra, was where he drew the line. This was Alessandra's family, but Edgar did not trust any of them. It was his job to be suspicious of the people around her. Edgar did not care if her mother would view him as overprotective. Claire was offended Edgar stopped her from touching Alessandra.
"I was not going to hurt my sister. What kind of person do you take me for?"
she asked.
"You are a stranger. I don't know what to make of you aside from the fact that you are pushy. As I said, time will tell how close we become to each other. I would like to think none of you are here to make use of her title, to get married."
Edgar looked at Melody, who avoided his gaze.
"Or any other foolish plans you have."
He looked at Melanie. Melanie grabbed Claire and Melody's hands to pull them back behind her. I am sorry their behavior rubbed you the wrong way, Duke Collins.
I was not the one who is owed an apology. Alessandra, you should take your sisters outside. I am sure they wish to apologize for being pushy and see you off,
Edgar said, releasing her hand so he could stay behind to speak to her mother. Okay, Alessandra reluctantly replied. She left Edgar alone with her mother and received apologies from her sisters. Edgar kept his eyes on Alessandra as he still did not trust her sisters.
Those tales about me tend to twist the more they get spread around. You should ask around this town to find more accurate tales. I found you for her sake, to get her questions answered. Quite frankly, I don't like you, nor do I trust you. Let fixing your past mistakes be the only reason you are in town. I've killed your former husband, and I would have no issue killing you if you hurt my wife. Again,
he added, as Melanie leaving Alessandra behind was the first time she hurt Alessandra.
Do not try using or hurting my wife.